Hi, you're with Christine and Ask Your Angels. Thanks for joining us this evening, and we are with special guest Alan Green, and we are here to empower and heal your life through past lives and spiritual journeys. Thanks so much for joining us today.
It's a great honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. So what can you tell us about past life journeys?
Have you got 3 hours?
I don't know. Sure.
Just take your time. Right? Well, I've been guiding people through their past lives for over 30 years and 19,000 individual journeys. That doesn't mean I've worked with 19,000 people, but I've worked with about 5,000 or 6,000 people, and each person has about 4 or 5 past lives they go through. And a part of every session we go to meet your spirit guides. So you actually are in the presence of your guides. You can actually talk with them and feel yourself hug them and talk with people who passed over as well. So that all fits with that. And the past life stuff, the reason you do it is to find out why you have issues with people this lifetime. There's no reason for doing past life work at all unless you understand how it's practical and available to what's happening in your life now. So you can find out how you know somebody in a past life. If you're having a conflict with somebody, it could have started in a past life. If you go back in a past life and see what that conflict was and you cleared it up then, there's a strong possibility you can clear it up now. One lady, she had a problem with her mother. They hadn't talked in 9 years. So she said, I got to find out where this comes from. Went back into a past life, and the fight in the past life was almost exactly the fight they had this lifetime. So she got a chance to go back, and because you're watching it like a movie in remote viewing, she got a chance to see the real big picture. So she got a chance to forgive herself, then she forgave her mother, and then and she came out of the past life, and after 9 years of non-contact, the next morning the mother calls. Let's get together, and they're the best of friends now. So when you go back and heal something then, there's a possibility to heal it now. And karmically and spiritually, even if that person's on the other side of the world, when you go back to find out about that person, their spirit is obligated to go with you. So when she went back in the past life, her mother's spirit was with her, watching her heal it. And that's how it healed now.
So they both healed at the same time.
That's right, yeah. It's fascinating stuff, and I get excited about every past life I do because I learn something new every time. You know, and there's massive healings that can happen. One lady had 9 major allergies. When she came out of the past life, 7 of them disappeared, just from the awareness of where it comes from, because it's a self-healing thing. And I remember one story where Catherine loves to tell me about this. She loves me.
You should tell.
She loves to tell me about, or me to tell the story about a lady who had problems with her. She came with her husband. Often couples come together because if something revelation happens or some major change or healing happens, it's kind of hard to talk about it later if you just, try to tell them. So if you have them with you, it makes it really nice. And this lady said she had a problem all her life where she's never been able to hug around her neck. Like when she was a child and her mother as a baby tried to hug her, she'd scream in terror. Her brothers and sisters, her father, her cousins, nobody could hug her around the neck. She married this beautiful man. He has never been able to hug her around the neck. Her kids have never been able to hug her around the neck. So she figured, well, I was probably hung in a past life, or I was strangled.
That's what you would think.
Yeah, or guillotine or something like that. And so we went back into past life just to show you can't make up this stuff, and and to find out where it was. And we did a couple of past lives first, then we went into it. And she found herself on a ship, and she was Irish, and she was heading towards the New World, an immigrant coming to North America. And she got on this big steamship. And I said, would you please look at the steamship? And she says, why? She says, because when I do past life work with you, I can see what you see and feel what you feel. If you don't see it, then I don't see it. Mm-hmm. So I said, look at the front of the ship. She did, and I said, good. She goes, what do you mean? I said, it's not the Titanic. So that was a good thing, because I have seen about...
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, I've seen 14 people who have actually been on the Titanic. So she got on this ship, and what happened was her husband had gone across to New York and got a job and got the money to bring her over, right? So she was in economy class with all these women sleeping in bunks in the basement. Well, she'd never been on a ship, and she was very, very seasick all the time. She would try to walk along and not look at the ocean and go and have something to eat and everything and come back, but the rolling of the ship would make her sick. So they had to, for 3 weeks, they had to feed her food in her cabin. She just couldn't, get over it. So finally she had enough, and at about 3 in the morning, she decides that she's going to get out and get some fresh air, whether she's sick or not. So she, because I can see and feel it with her, she opens the door. Well, she put on the long corset thing up to here, and then the long dress that fits up to there, and then the big heavy coat. And she opens the door, and there's the ocean, North Atlantic, and I just felt this of cold just hit me and instantly almost freeze me. And then she went out and she put her hands on the railing, you know, and I could feel.
I'm not going to like this.
No.
I just feel the tension.
Well, it was a good ending. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it always usually is. And she put her hands on the railing. I could feel my hands get cold on the railing. And she looks up at the full moon, you know, and she's.
And said, "I'm king of the world."
Queen of the world.
Queen of the world.
Yeah, and God's a girl, by the way.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, it's Father, Mother, God, actually, but it's both male and female. So I could feel the elation in her. You know, she's going to meet her man, start a new life in a new world. She's all excited, and she's looking at the moon, and everything's perfect. And she looks down at the ocean, and the waves are going like this, right? She goes, "Ah!" And she gets sick and falls right overboard. And she goes into the ocean.
You said this had a happy.
Oh no!
All right.
Just bear with me.
Because that's not a good day.
Yeah. Well, and what happened was the weight of the water pulled, and this big heavy dress and coat she had on pulled her right to the bottom. So I said, "Do you have any fear of cold water? Do you have a fear of drowning and that type of thing?" She goes, "No." What had happened was the dress was up like this, right? And when she hit the water, the weight of the dress pulled against her neck like this, and it suffocated her. So she actually.
You're right. It's a great story.
Yeah,
it had a wonderful ending.
She actually passed out, and by the time she hit the bottom, she was already passed out and gone. So she never really had any ill effects with it. So anyway, when I work with a person who's had an injury from a past life, and there's been over 1,000 people that have healed pain they've had their whole life because it comes from a wound in a past life or some type of situation like this. I don't put my hands right on the client, so I got her to put her hands on her neck, and then I got her husband, who was sitting beside her, to put his hands on top of her hands. I put my hand on top of their hands, and all together we worked on healing the neck. You know, where some bones had been broken and had been twisted, and the muscles and everything like that. And then we did a couple of past lives, met her guides, and at the end of the session, she said, "Oh, that was really good, thank you," and she gave me a hug. So I went to give her a hug, and I hugged her right around the neck, and I froze and she froze, and I went, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble," you know, because nobody's hugged her around the neck.
Or maybe she was getting emotional because she was able to.
Well, she just forgot all about it, and all of a sudden I said, "I'm sorry." She goes, "No, it's gone." And for the first time in 37 years of marriage to her husband, she actually got a chance to hug him around the neck.
So that's the happy ending you were
That's
talking
the happy
about.
ending, yeah.
Okay,
It took
in
a while
this
to
life.
get there, but it's quite a story, you know. And you know, as a part of every session too, you can find out about your mission and purpose. So there's been thousands of people that I've seen who go and find out that they have healing abilities, channeling abilities. There's at least 24 people it was so dramatic that they have actually stopped their whole job this lifetime, and they've gone and done a career and writing books and manuals and workshops and everything on what they've learned. So it's advantage that way too. And if you have a fear phobia of heights or water or snakes,
I do.
what is it?
Well, it's heights, and it's being enclosed in water.
Okay, maybe you were on the Titanic.
I actually thought I was.
It's possible.
Yeah,
We'll check
I
that
wonder
out.
about that.
Yep. And then you heal it, right? And this one man, he had a fear of heights. It was so dramatic that if he looked up to the top of a building, he would get dizzy. So he could not, his vision was this through his whole life. And so we did a past life, found out where that comes from. And when we're watching and doing the past life, we're actually discussing it at the same time. So it's like watching a movie and discussing about the movie, because I can see and feel it with them. Mm-hmm. If a person is too much in their mind, then everything will go black for me. You know, because they're trying to make it up, they're trying to think about it too much, and I'll ask them to go back into their heart. Because 90% of the time, when you're doing something spiritual or psychic, when a psychic says they see a spirit around you, they don't really see that spirit, they feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you just go back into your heart and everything comes back again.
Now, you don't use hypnosis, right?
No, it doesn't need to be that way. You know, the person, if they're in the middle of a past life and they have to go to the washroom, they can literally get up, go to the washroom, come back, and go right back into the past life. It's that smooth and simple.
Like for me, because I've been told when you're psychic, it's hard to hypnotize someone, and people have tried, and I don't feel hypnotized. I don't feel like it's working. How would this be different? Let's say if for me.
When you're doing a past life with me and with anybody who does past life work, it's usually the guides that are in control. So the guides are the ones who show you what you need to see, and it could be a past life this lifetime. Where you go back into your childhood and they're showing you that's where this issue came from, or it could be a past life from somewhere else, or it could be sometimes a future life, but that's very rare, and sometimes it could be from another planet. Because a lady came to me 15 years ago and said, "I'm not from this planet, I don't like living here, and I want to go home." And I said, "Okay." I don't do that type of work. And she says, well, I am suicidal. And if you don't help me, I may not be around. Can you help me? Well, no pressure at all, no pressure. So I said, okay, I'll go back and see. So I went back into a past life, and we headed towards the moon, and I found a way of getting her past the moon, and all of a sudden she just shot through the universe. She's going at light speed. She lands on her home planet. I'm looking at her as an alien, talking to these aliens. She's having the time of her life. I'm freaked out. But she comes back and says, I'm not committing suicide. I see my mission. Thank you. So I went, what the heck was that about? So then, since then, I've seen 408 alien species and home planets.
Do they look like us, or do they all look different?
There's many different types. I have never seen one that are the same.
Okay.
Everyone is totally different. There's the same concept sometimes with the head and the big eyes and everything like that. But when you go back to see your home planet, it can be a perfect race. There's no war, there's no fighting, everything's utopian. It's great, but you don't learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
You just exist as a beautiful being, or great. So they come to Earth to learn about fiction and analyze all these different aspects of life, and then they go back to their home planet and teach them about what's happened. It's really kind of cool. And when you're androgynous, because most aliens are androgynous, that's where we do the soulmate thing. Mm-hmm. We start off as perhaps a being that is androgynous, comes down to Earth. We split into the two, the male and female. And when you go back to your home planet, I say, well, tune into that male side of you, if you're male and female. What's it feel like? And you describe somebody, and you realize it's exactly your husband you're describing. So he is really literally...
Or at least you hope.
I hope, yeah. He's the other half of you, right? And that's how that works. So
I'm going to interrupt you just for 1 sec, Alan, just for those of you who have joined our show. Mm-hmm. You're with the Ask Your Angels talk show, and tonight with me is Alan Green, and we are talking about past life spiritual journeys. And you had mentioned earlier in the show, you'd mentioned Catherine's name, and I was going to say maybe it would be a great time now to talk about Catherine as well, mm-hmm. and your home and what you do.
Okay.
And then you can go back to maybe sharing that story that you seem to be getting towards, that mm-hmm. you two are soulmates.
Are we?
I think you are.
Twin flames, too.
Twin flames.
I call it the eternal mate and everything like that. Catherine and I had a beautiful meeting up. Her late husband died in 2005, and then in 2000, that was in August 2005 September, he gave me a vision of Catherine. And I had 6 women come into my life at that time who wanted a serious relationship. I saw this vision of this beautiful woman.
Hot stuff, eh?
No.
Were they beating down your door?
No, they came in purposely to throw me off the path of meeting Catherine.
And why is that?
Because it was a test to see if I saw this vision of this beautiful woman and I felt the love, and I had a choice of not being in a relationship and going for that, or being thrown off and the timeline off.
And a lot of us do that. We settle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unfortunately I had that vision, and then I got a new guide about 2 months later, and you can be a human being and a spirit guide for somebody at the same time. And Catherine, my wife, became a spirit guide for me 3 months before we met. Then when we met, we were not interested in each other. 3 months later, I moved in with her. 3 months later, I married her and realized she was that guide. So the beautiful thing about Catherine is that she's been doing spiritual work and energy work for over 30 years as well. And so we've been, on the same path, but in separate lives, and then it kind of flowed together. We decided that when we met, that she wanted me to come and work in Ampa. We live in Ampa and near Ottawa in a log home in the woods. And we conversed over the phone. She went down to Arizona. I talked back and forth with her, and she was my toll-free number, so it was great. Just pick up the phone and call me. And we fell in love over the phone and over emails, and decided that I was going to move in with her and marry her, even though we'd never even kissed.
That is so romantic.
So it felt
I love stories like that.
Yeah.
See, it can happen.
Yeah. And then what's happening on the planet right now, and Catherine will talk about this a lot too, is that we're working with the divine masculine and feminine. So Catherine and I, before, when we got married, we were married actually 3 weeks before by a spiritual woman who told us we were going to help anchor the divine masculine and feminine. So you and your husband can be doing it in this area. Other people and couples can be doing it other way. So we're trying to unite the divine masculine and feminine with a couple, but if you're single, you're trying to do it within yourself. So your left side, your feminine side, your right side, your masculine side, you're trying to anchor it within yourself. And what's happening on the planet right now is that women are the ones who are leading the spiritual journey forward. They are the one who are taking the lead and having the courage and the strength to push the spirituality forward and having it work and ascend. And men are supposed to support them. I've been telling this for the last year. Men are supposed to support them on their journey, but not only that, us men are supposed to give them some of our power. And a lot of men will never do that. See, this is the first time in the history of the universe that a planet is ascending with the people. Okay? So, you know, that's the way it works. So Catherine has been integrating with me, and then one day I was meditating, and I felt this wonderful feminine energy come in my left-hand side. And I went, hello, and the energy went, hello, and I went, who are you? And she goes, I'm your angel. And I went, yeah, okay, but who are you? She says, well, it's me. And I went, it's the voice of Catherine. And Catherine had totally integrated into my left-hand feminine side. So that was kind of freaky. And then about an hour later, she comes down and I said, Catherine, do you notice anything different between your right and left-hand side? And she says, well, I've had nothing in my right-hand side for 3 weeks, but there's this male energy in my right-hand side now, and it's me. So that's how we've integrated that way. And it's kind of comical sometimes, because when I'm trying to think of something, I'll scratch my head like that. Catherine's never done that her whole life. All of a sudden, she's scratching her head like that now too. You know, I put my keys in my pocket, you know, and Catherine never does that. It's always in her purse. So she's emptying out her purse, trying to figure out where the heck her keys are, and then she looks and they're in her pocket, just like mine. And then when that first happened, I work at a place called Odyssey Books and Resource Center in Ajax, and I'm there every month and a half. I'm there this weekend. And Catherine when it first happened, I was doing sessions, and Catherine's very fast and efficient, you know, with her work, and I'm very slow and methodical. So all of a sudden, I'm trying to do past lives, and they're going by really fast. I'm going, Catherine, slow down, just slow down, you know, because she's inside me and it's working faster. And then all of a sudden, I start to speak, and my voice comes out as her voice, and our voice together, and it goes, blah, and I'm sure people thought we were on something. And so I said, Catherine, like, shut up, let me do the sessions. Meanwhile, on the other side, she's never done any past life work in her life, and she's aware of it, but not done anything. And she's giving, she has a 5-in-1 spa package thing, that does reflexology and foot massage and things like that. And all of a sudden, she starts doing past lives and giving the person a reading, you know, about that type of thing. So we've integrated totally, and actually there's a picture. We did our aura pictures, and everybody knows about aura pictures and how the things form.
Actually, they might not.
They might not.
So
okay.
if you can,
sometimes you go to a psychic fair.
We haven't talked about auras in detail yet.
So you go to a psychic fair, and they have the crinoline photography, or they take the picture of your aura and the colors around you and everything like that. Well, Catherine took hers in about 1 in the afternoon, and then mine at night, and then basically I went and she's trying to focus on that. You can see that we were kind of freaked out that the pictures were exactly the same. And even when you look at the chakras down below, you can see that the alignment of the chakras and the intensity of the chakras are exactly the same as well. So that kind of freaked us out, but at the same time we didn't think of anything unusual, because that's the way it goes. So yeah, and
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's fun. So, you know, there's a lot of people light holders in different areas, and here's where it's all going.
Okay. I was wondering what our tech guy's doing.
Well, there's one guy, he had a fear of heights. We were talking about heights.
Yes.
And he couldn't even look at the top of the building. Found out where it came from in a past life, and the next week he's with his friend, and his friend is fixing a roof. And he says to Richard, Richard, can you hand me a hammer? Well, normally Richard would go like this, you know, have you got it? Have you got it? You know, hand the hammer out, because he can't look up, he get dizzy. And the friend turns, and Richard's standing behind him. He's climbed up a ladder with a coffee in one hand and the hammer in the other. And he says, Richard, I've known you all your life. You know, since you were 2 years old, you've been terrified of heights. And he looks around and he goes, because I'm not terrified anymore.
That's got to be great.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling. So you help people get over their phobias and their fears through past life regression. What else do you do at OMPA? I just want to mention too, Catherine is here this evening with us. I don't know, Catherine, if you want to just poke your head in and wave hi. Maybe snuggle up with Alan.
Hello.
This is
There's
Catherine.
a picture over there too.
Hello. Catherine's going to be on our show next week.
Yes.
So we'll have Catherine back, and that's going to be pretty exciting stuff too.
Okay.
And for those of you who are just joining us, you are with the Ask Your Angels talk show. And tonight I have Alan Green with us. If you'd like to look at Alan Green's website, it's www.alangreen, and that's ALLAN, and it's .ca. And we were talking about fears and how past life regression can help you get over those.
Mhm.
And also, we were talking about Ampa.
Yes.
What can you tell us about Ampa?
Well-
I love that name.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you.
It's not where the, apparently it's not where the Oompa Loompas live.
No. Well, when I met Catherine, I was wearing an Om. You know how the famed Om symbol? When you meditate, you go Om is the sound of creation. Then there's the Ah sound, and I had a symbol of that too, which means in every God sound there's the sound of Ah. Jehovah, Buddha, Krishna, Allah,
Oh,
God.
that's true. I never noticed
Sound
that
of Ah,
before.
right? So you put Ah and Om together, you get the sound of Shalom. That's where that comes from. It
Oh,
means peace,
I like
right?
that. I've heard that.
But then Om and Ah together, I was wearing these Om and this Ah together, and Catherine says, why don't you put a P in the middle? And that's where it came to Ompa.
She's very insightful.
She's very insightful.
What does the P
She's-
stand for?
Peace, precious,
Peace, precious.
Peace, precious,
perfect.
perfect. Now, are you describing Alan?
No.
Ampa.
Ompa.
Ompa.
Yeah.
I love the name. There's something about it.
It's special, and most people in Ontario never heard of Ompa,
Nope.
and Catherine never too. She lived an hour and a half away in Kempville. Never heard of Ompa. I went to Bon Echo, which is about 40 minutes away. I'd never heard of Ompa, but they had a thing
Is
called.
Ompa a city?
No, it's a couple of homes and
I-
fire
I-
station and stuff
But
like that.
isn't, oh really?
Yeah, it's a village.
Because I thought Ompa was the name you gave your retreat.
No.
So it's actually a town.
Yes.
The town of Ompa.
Yeah.
600 people during the year and 3,500 in the summer.
Yeah.
600 people during the year and 3,500 in the summer? Wow.
Yes. But most people
I can't read lips.
in the cottage areas, they go stay at their cottages. You never see them, so the roads aren't very busy or anything like that. It's out on the water, everything like that. So.
Oh, it sounds beautiful. You want to get away to a really great retreat?
Mhm.
You have to go here. Can you a picture?
Yeah, this is our home in Ampa.
Oh, this camera up here.
Okay.
Here.
No. No. Okay. Just that way.
Tech guy, make up your mind.
No, he had it right. Just wanted to move the picture over.
Hey, I recommended this place to a friend of mine who has actually been and gone. She's come back. Amazing. Just loved it. Very healing experience.
Well, we call our retreat Goddess and the Green Man Crystal Earth Retreat. Catherine's the goddess. I'm Alan Green Man. And in our whole area, there's quartz veins, or white quartz, milky quartz veins going through the whole property and the whole area. And so that's the Crystal Earth Retreat. And we found out when we got married, we anchored a Stargate Pillar of Light portal with 120 people at our wedding. Then all of a sudden these gateways and portals started opening up. Elemental Gateway, where the fairies and gnomes can come through. There's, this one here is a perfect example. This here is a place, it's called a positive energy vortex on our property. And what it does is, it's very rare any snow will land on that in the winter. And you stand that in the summertime or any time, and you can feel the energy coming up from the earth, and it actually rejuvenates you, and it keeps the energy of our property going and everything too. So and then
That's amazing.
we have a healing rock. We have a crystal chair, actually a rock that's like a chair that's natural and has about that much crystal over the whole top of the rock. So you get a healing there, and it anchors what you healed there. And then we have a tree that comes up. Well, a lot of trees come up from 1 and go into 2, but the bark of the tree is like a dragon scale, and we call it our dragon tree. And you can hug the tree, turn around, close your mind off, and get a message from the tree. It's
Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible.
We have there's many different portals in our land. So.
Now I'm told I am going to be going there, so I will go
Ah.
there and I will report back. Not sure when that will be.
That will be blessed if you do. That's great. So yeah, and another thing too is that you have healings and everything from fears and phobias and everything like that. But when you meet your spirit guides, you can actually talk with people who have passed over. And sometimes a person, let's say they've been got cancer or something, and they've died of cancer, and at the time they were heavily drugged, and when they pass over, they don't even know they're passed over. So they can be trapped between
because they're on morphine and
trapped between here and heaven, that type of thing.
that's horrible.
Well, it is, and it just happens. And so, Catherine and I, you meet your spirit guides, and then all of a sudden we call that person to say hello, and we realize that their energy is not really high. In other words, they're sort of trapped between heaven and earth, and if they've gone, crossed over, and come back, then it's really light and it's good. But if they feel sad or angry or whatever, then they haven't passed over, and we free them to the light.
Now, what can you offer people out there who, let's say, are too far away from you, or you know, maybe they're now concerned about a loved one that the circumstance could have affected them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's not great to hear that they might be trapped somewhere. What would you recommend they do?
We can do sessions where you just go and meet your spirit guides, and once you've met all your guides, then we go and talk with, see about people who pass over and then free them to the light.
And can you do this through one of our viewers who's far away, like, you know?
Either by Skype or by phone,
yes,
or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just worked with a guy from Germany about 3 days ago, and his girlfriend's Canadian and the armed forces, and they got a free call to me, and so we talked and released some major entities around him. So spiritual journey, you know, the more you move ahead in your spiritual journey, the more you have to work on yourself as a human being. You know, there's people who love spiritual stuff, and they're in la land all the time up there. I call them New Age people on the ceiling. And when they come back down to earth, they're an emotional mess or physically a mess because they just don't want to be here on the planet. And so every time I progress, I have to work hard as a human being and be more that way too, and grounded. If you're not grounded, you're not going to be any good to anybody. Anybody who does healing work that way.
So what's the best way for people to ground themselves?
Sometimes you're lucky and you have a partner that grounds you. You know, that helps a lot. It's funny, I met quite a few spiritual women who are not smokers, but they'll have cigarettes in their purse. And they'll go to a party and it's the spiritual people, and they'll start to lift off. You know, I'm feeling lighter and lighter, and they're not grounded. So they'll just open up the cigarette, light it, and just take 3 or 4 puffs, and then grounds them. So a lot of people smoke because it does ground them.
Now, can you be grounded by just taking 1 puff?
Probably. You know,
Interesting.
It's psychological that way. But then at the same time, there's methods of grounding, of course.
That's today's.
In the olden days, you know, in the 90s, we used to ground down to the earth, right? But that's constantly shifting now. So you don't know where your grounding part is. So you ground up and you ground down. So you ground up to the universe. So it's like a string you're the bauble on the string, and you make it tight.
So you kind of picture yourself doing this? Is that
Just
like
ground
a
up to
meditative
source.
kind of thing?
It can just be done in a split second. Ground up to source, down to the earth, feel your roots expand, and there you go.
That reminds me of the story you told me about the fishing bobble. I like that.
Oh.
Maybe you can share that.
I was at a retreat. We were up in Nellie Lake. It's called Journeys Within, a retreat, and it's a beautiful place. And Kathy was teaching yoga, and she was doing talks, and I was doing past lives and drumming circles and sing-along nights and everything. We had a blast. But as a part of, for everybody, there was like 12 people who were at this retreat, and a lot of they're all French Canadian, you know, and they're very amazing people. And I got a little teeny bauble that you have when you're fishing, you know, the red and white ones, that floaters, and then I got the weight, the lead weight, and you can attach it on the bottom. And then I put a string around the top, and I got people to wear it, and they said, what's that all about? And I said, well, every time wear it, and every time you're talking about somebody, you know, and going to converse, you know, think, are you uplifting them and helping them float, or are you dragging them down and sinking them to the bottom with the weight? So that's what you do. There's actually
That's great, and I think if more people even tried that,
Yes.
maybe on a weekend, have your kids try it too. That's
Yeah.
a good learning exercise
There's
to become more aware
Mhm.
of what you're doing.
There's a famous thing with that too. It's called the 3 gateways. Before you make a decision or say something, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If you can pass those 3 gateways, then say it. If not, just be silent.
So is it true?
Is it necessary?
Is it kind?
So, you know, you say, well, it's true, yeah, but is it necessary to tell them that? Is
Yeah,
it
do
really-
they need to hear it?
Yeah, or is it really
going
kind?
to?
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it works. Yeah.
That's great.
So yeah, and you know, part of everybody's life, it's to amalgamate the past lives in with your life and see how they fit with you. If it doesn't relate, then that's not really, you know, spirituality is much more bigger than just past lives and everything. But I remember working with a lady, and she had a swollen knee, and I said, "Do you want to find out where this comes from?" She said, "Sure." So we went back into past life, and we saw her lying on the ground. She was a Union soldier, and she had a big arrow stuck right through her knee. And we looked up and there's Colonel Custer shooting his pistol. So we realized she was part of those soldiers that were in Custer's last stand, and she did die. But the first trauma was the fact that when the arrows went through her knee, she couldn't run away. She was doomed. So what we did was we worked and we took the arrow out, and then we started working on all the muscles and tendons and veins and fractured bone and stuff like that. We put it all together for about 7 minutes. And the next day she went on a 3-mile walk with her dog with no pain at all. So that type of thing happens all the time. And I don't take credit for that, because the person healed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The only one who can heal you is really you. Okay, like when Christ.
But you do help.
Well, yeah, you know, it's like a Reiki master too. They raise the vibration higher so a person can heal faster,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in Christ in a past life, you know, when he was around, if somebody did not want to be healed because of free will on this planet, he could not do anything.
What are some of the reasons why people wouldn't want to be healed? I mean, we have covered this before, but just for viewers that have, joined us for the first time.
Yes, and so what happens with that is that a person can have a situation where they have a poor me attitude. You know, they have this pain all their life and everybody's been sympathetic and they don't want to get rid of it.
They get a lot of attention.
They get a lot of attention. That's one of the things too. Sometimes when I do past lives, I have about a 95% success rate of people actually being able to do it and heal things and have a good experience, because it's not me doing the main work. It's my higher self and guides or their higher self and guides. So the guides had already planned what's going to happen when we get together. So it makes a lot of pressure off you and me or them, you know. So when a person comes to do a session with me, they're already primed and ready to work. So it works good. Yeah.
And you were telling me, I met with Alan earlier today, and he was explaining to me about how the eyes.
The meaning of the
I'll let
eyes?
you. Yes.
Well, our left eye is our human side eye, because it's on the side of the heart. That represents the human condition. Okay? And if you're sad or happy about a human condition, you only cry to the left eye. I found this out in 1994, and I went, oh my God, it works every time. I'm watching television, I'm watching some things about African children that are starving, and all of a sudden my left eye starts tearing like everything, and this is fine. Now, your right eye is your spiritual eye. And if you're sad or happy about a spiritual condition, you only cry to the right eye. And of course, if you're spiritually and humanly totally devastated, it'll come out of both eyes. But I noticed with your eyes that, that they're very
You didn't have to share that, but
okay.
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 Go ahead.
But they're very beautiful.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
Well,
We'll give an example.
she has, if you look at her, she has one eye that's very,
Droopy.
very natural and very, very focused, and the other eye is more open, and it's actually moving forward more. And she goes and I said, well, you know, human-wise, you're very focused, you're very discerning, you're very logically minded. You know, it's good to be that way. But spiritually, you're wide open about things. You're actually moving forward, and it's pushing out that way. So.
It's good news. I mean, that was good news.
Yeah.
I really thought it was old age, and I was droopy on one side. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
I had somebody who called in and they wanted me to tell a story about helping somebody to light, and it's to do with Jumbo the elephant. And he
Is he real? I thought
the
he was
Jumbo
a
no,
TV.
he was a real one. He was back in the 1800s, and
And they wrote Dumbo based on him, did they not?
no, Jumbo was
Dumbo.
a huge elephant that lived in England, and he was massive, and he could take a teeny peanut out of a kid's hand, and these kids fell in love with this elephant, right? So they took him all around. Barnum and Bailey took him around the world, and they took him to St. Thomas, Ontario, and they did a show with him, and then they went to put him on the train, and they took him down the wrong ramp. Another train was coming the other way, and it killed him. So that was like 120 years ago. And so this was...
You have some happy stories
Oh,
to
I
share
sure,
tonight,
I
right?
do, I do.
Okay, good.
And this again, there's a happy ending. So what happened
Not
was...
for the elephant.
Well, and around the world there was a shockwave, because kids even gave their piggy
Devastating.
bags in England to ask that this Jumbo not go on this tour of the world. You know, the kids loved this animal so much, and a lot of kids who are crippled and everything like that, you know, really, really loved this animal. So Catherine and I went to St. Thomas for the first time together, and we're going underneath the railroad tracks area where he died, and I got really heavy. And I went, Catherine, I'm feeling so much weight and pressure right now. I said, I got to talk tonight. I don't think I can give the talk. I mean, I'm just feeling so.
Did you go through McDonald's on the way?
Whether it could be depressed or something like that, you know. And so then I took her to the monument of Jumbo, which is a 3-ton monument, you know, of Jumbo, celebrating that he died there in memorandum. And Catherine's very intuitive, and she sees spirits around, and she goes, Alan, you need to feel that spiritual light or whatever. And she said, has he crossed? And I went, that's why I'm feeling so heavy.
He hasn't crossed.
He hadn't
all
crossed
these
in
years.
120 years. And
Oh
so
my
the
goodness.
heaviness I felt was the heaviness of the elephant. And so I went and I closed my
That is so
eyes.
sad.
I could picture him beside the monument, and then I called on the bright light you go to when you pass over, and all of a sudden there's a "Rah!" and he just went right into the light, right? And I went, whoa, and I just felt the heaviness disappear off my body. So then I went and I moved away, and Catherine said, there's something more. And thank God she said that, and thank God she's intuitive that way.
He
So
left his peanuts behind?
He left his peanuts behind. Yeah, all the shells. And so I looked, and there's about a dozen kids that had attached to his soul.
And passed over and...
Well, in other words, he was like their great God-loving father, you know, figure. And when these kids died, they went with him and stayed with him. So then they
Well,
all...
at least he wasn't alone.
Yeah, they all went to the light together.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I thought you said it was a sad story.
Well, it's beautiful in that sense. I mean, you know, I'm sure.
So spirituality has many different aspects of it too. You know, it's not just, you know, past lives, but it does affect us very, very strongly. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. Yeah. And you know, there's magical things all around. You know, I lived in Exeter, Ontario, and they have white squirrels in Exeter, Ontario.
Are they not the most beautiful squirrel you've ever seen?
And the cool thing about the white squirrel here is it's not a squirrel that is an albino, because it hasn't got pink eyes, it's got black eyes. And I lived in Exeter, Ontario for the first 10 years of my life. And when I left, all of a sudden white squirrels started showing up. So I always make a joke that it was my gift to Exeter for, you know, for having my childhood there and everything too. So
Is there a story, though, about white squirrels? Like, why don't we see them here?
because I brought them to Exeter.
Oh, all right,
No,
I got
because
it.
no, it's just that some anomaly
Can you bring
happened.
us some? Because we love
They
squirrels.
started spreading all through Ontario after that, like Clinton and Dashwood and
We
all
have some red
towns.
ones, but they're kind of mean looking.
Red wings, yeah.
There's something about the red ones. I don't know what it is.
Americans get really freaked out when they come to Canada because they've never seen black squirrels.
Oh, really?
They have gray squirrels down in the States, but it's very rare they have any black squirrels.
Well, they're racist, right? No, I'm just kidding.
They're racist. Oh my God. So they don't see them.
I
'cause
never
they're black.
said that. I
Okay.
never said that.
I can't believe
If they're
it.
way down south squirrels, you know, Arkansas way. I dated someone from Arkansas, and you know, they're
Do you want to talk about that?
still no.
Fascinating.
Still,
It's a past
he
life,
was
yeah.
still a little bit prejudiced. So
Yeah.
I'm not. I love all different colors of squirrels. I just want that to go on the record right now.
Very good. Okay. Good. Whew. It's close. You got out of that one good.
Did I? Was that
Yeah.
good? No.
And you can see orbs around people too. You know, that's part of spirituality. Some people say they're your guides or they're angels that are around you. And I've got pictures of, I don't know if you can see this one, but it's a picture I took of orbs. And you can see around the one person there, they're drumming, and the one guy in the red there and the black, he's drumming.
Oh, is it this one?
This one? Yeah. And he's drumming, and you can see an orb around his head. No.
No,
He's like that.
I don't. You know his
And
points better
I do.
than I do. That's good.
And he actually had a brain operation, and the orb seems to be protecting his brain. I've got another picture of an orb around a lady's hip. It seems to be protecting the hip as well. And then there's another orb here that is just looks like a mandala.
Do you see any orbs in here? 'Cause sometimes we could use one, you know.
Oh, okay.
All our technical
I'll see what I can
issues.
do.
All right.
So what happens with orbs is the one of the aspects of orbs that is really cool is that you can be at work, okay, and let's say you're a single mom, you look down at the floor and you can't stop staring at the floor, or you look up at the ceiling, you can't stop staring at the ceiling. You go, why am I riveted to the ceiling? And what's happening is that orb acts like a portal, and it shows you your kids at daycare, and you're actually watching your kids at daycare without even knowing it. And you're going, oh, they're cool, they're all right, and then all of a sudden they come out of it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking I'd probably see my kid throwing chairs, but it's good that I don't know what's going on over there.
That's possible that way too. Yeah. So, you know, there's so many aspects of past lives, and you know, you can relate that to your life now. I know one guy, he had a situation with where he went in to get a job as a fireman, and the fire chief hired him right on the spot. It was like 480 guys lined up for the job, and he walked in and he had the job. Went back into past life and found out that this fire chief was a captain of a ship, and he was the first mate. And they spent their whole lifetime together, and him trusting him totally. And he knew he was a good worker. So because of that past life, he got hired right away, because they're back together as a team. And then
you should trust your instincts when you meet people sometimes. You know how they always say that first impression?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it is.
Yeah, and it can be, and sometimes you're walking downtown Toronto, and all of a sudden you're having a really wonderful day, and you meet somebody and they smile at you and you feel this incredible connection, and then they're gone. And that can be the karmic thing where automatically you're just gone, and Kat's going to give me a message, where your contract this lifetime was just to see that person and say, hi, are you doing good? I'm doing good, fine, and just keep on going.
You know what's really strange lately is everywhere I go, I see total strangers. Like I'll be out and there's a bunch of people everywhere. And everyone I look at, like almost every other person, I'm like, they look familiar. I know them.
Wow.
I know them. But it's constant, and it's just recently, and I don't really know them.
It's because we're all becoming one.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is. And you're tuning into their soul. You know, it's just perfect that way.
That's good?
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. Because I think I'm going insane. I'm like, you know, there's some viewers that probably would agree with that, but...
Yeah. And what happens is, you know, past lives used to be really hard to access. But now they want you to have it do it really fast, you know, so that it's right there. Also, your guides used to be hard to reach because their vibration was high and ours was low, and you had to kind of fight to come down to you, and you had to fight to go up to them. They're walking right beside us now, and you can connect with them.
I'm getting a message myself right now, and it's Catherine wants to get pregnant.
Is that what it is? Okay.
No.
I'll work on that.
Yeah. Catherine's laughing. Okay.
Past lives help people get pregnant.
Oh, past lives help people who get pregnant. Would
Well,
you like to talk about that?
Okay, so when you go
Does
into
that
your...
mean Catherine does not want to get pregnant?
That's what she means, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to get personal, but you were sharing.
Catherine thinks mothers are saints, you know, because of what they
I
put
think
up
Catherine's a saint.
with. It's true. It's true.
Catherine,
I
I
agree.
gave her a big hug today. I just met her for the first time, and it's like hugging your mom. It's incredible. Like the most perfect in the world mom. Just
Yeah.
that wonderful, loving feeling.
So when you go into your soul light and you meet your guides, often at your feet there might be a child. Now that child could be a child you had in a past life that's still hanging around. Okay?
Did you dream about that child?
Yes. Yes.
I had dreams growing up. I had a little girl.
Yeah.
I could describe her to a T.
Mhm.
I thought it was a premonition, but that never
Well,
happened.
imaginary friends can be your guides. So you have a guide that trusts you and you know them really well, but they're actually an adult. And you're a little 5-year-old kid, and that guide melts itself down to your size and guides you, and that's the imaginary friend. So it's actually a good thing. So as far as you go into the soul light and you'll see a kid that maybe was your kid in a past life. So in a past life, let's say there's a little 6-year-old girl there. And you look at that child and you can say, oh, in Russia in 1482, that's when I had this child. And that child drowned or something. Now, instead of that child, you were so close to that child that that child didn't want to leave you. You didn't want that child to leave you either. So instead of going to the final light, that child went into your soul light. And you and your guides took care of its spirit through that whole lifetime. And then, you know, then all of a sudden you died, and that child went back to the grave, waited around, you reincarnated somewhere else on the earth. The child came into your light again, lived another whole lifetime with you. You died and went back to the grave over and over and over again. So the 1400s, it could have done it 8 or 9 times. And finally, this lifetime, you see that child and you get a chance to free it to the light. Because if you don't, it'll just keep doing that over and over again.
Keep doing it.
Yeah. Same with animals. You know, you had a dog you loved when you were a kid that you really loved. That dog loved you so much, and you loved the dog, didn't want to leave you. It didn't want to leave you either. So it went into your light, and it's still hanging around, and you free it to the light.
And can't be reborn.
It's really good. So there's one lady,
No,
she,
it can't be reborn.
If it's in your life.
yeah, it
Oh,
can't
if it's in your
reincarnate.
light, it cannot reincarnate. Because that was my question.
Yeah.
If, you know, because today actually my son Dorian was saying, you know, Mommy, I don't ever want to leave you. I want to live with you forever. And
Right.
he says, but what happens when I die? And I said, well, I said, we're going to be reborn, and you'll come back, and you'll start over. But I want to start over with you and Daddy, and you know, my brother, and I said, well, let's make a pact right now that we'll be together
There you
in the
go.
next life, and just like this. He goes, and this is the sweetest thing. He said, I would like to also have a little sister in the next life.
Wow.
And I always wanted to have a little girl, and I thought, well, how perfect would that be for all of us to come back and
Yeah, and that
Can you
that,
do that?
that
Can you
little
make a
girl
pact and-
could be a girl that wants to be born to you.
the
you
one
know?
I keep dreaming
Yes.
about.
And or it could be a child that's going to be born to your children. Mothers will incubate a baby in spirit until it's ready to, and get used to the family until it's ready to be born to one of your children. Then it could be an abortion.
Granddaughter.
Yeah, it could be an abortion or a miscarriage too. So you might see that little girl is 5 years old, right?
Mhm.
And I'll say, does this remind you of anything? And you'll go, well, it feels like a miscarriage I had. And it is. And you go, well, miscarriage was at like 2 or 3 months. How can that be 5 years old? It's because you grieved for 5 years. And the child kept on
Oh,
growing.
I see.
Then after 5 years you stopped grieving and the child stopped growing.
We have a question.
Yes.
Just one sec though, because that reminds me when I was younger, I stayed home sick one day, and they had a thing on the radio. Have you ever had a supernatural experience? And I'm going to do this really quick, but it talked about this woman who was grieving for her son, who had passed away. He was very young, and then she said one night at the foot of her bed, she saw him. Several years later, he was older,
Yep.
dressed in the same clothes they buried him in, and he says, "Mommy, I'm okay now." And she had peace after that.
Yeah, because he went to the light.
Yeah, beautiful story. So we have an online question. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Okay, we have a couple of different things online right now. I'm just going to read what they've wrote. Okay, past life regression versus implanting the idea of a past life. And what they've kind of asked in conjunction with that was, how can you convince someone they've had a traumatic experience, then they start to remember them even though they never happened?
This life.
So obviously,
Yeah, well, you know, when a person's very much in their mind, they have a hard time understanding this because past life stuff is done through the heart. So when you go back into past life, let's say you want to go back into past life with me, you see yourself as a beautiful woman in a meadow with sunshine and butterflies and a beautiful dress. It's so clear
And
for
Finn, don't forget.
and it's so clear for me that I can actually tell you the color of your nail polish. Okay, but if you start over analyzing it with your mind, everything goes black for me. I can't see or feel anything, so I know you're making it up. So you go back into a past life, and it's nothing about implanting somebody in the head. I could not make up a story about that lady in the neck and jumping off or falling off the ship and drowning and everything. You cannot make it up.
I've met Alan. He's just not that quick.
True.
No, I'm
I don't
kidding.
think I want to be that quick either. Because yeah.
so the second part of this comes out is planting the seed of a past life to manifest it to some extent. So that's not really what we're talking about here today.
No, because you're being shown this by your guides, okay, and they'll show you exactly what you see, and then it's the emotion you feel with it, because a person will start doing past lives, and within 30 seconds they're starting to cry and they don't know why, and all of a sudden there's a great loss. So you don't implant the seed in there. You open-ended questions. Now I can see and feel things with people, so the guides guide me to say, do you want to go this way? Do you want to go that way? What do you feel about this? And I'm forcing them to feel it more and more, and then it just comes out. And when you feel it then and heal it then, you heal it now. So, yeah.
Thank you, Alan.
Any other questions? That's pretty well that one. Yeah, people often wonder if they're making it up, right? But they're sitting there crying away, and they're totally devastated. And I go, what caused that? You know, do you think you made that up? You know, and then
I think there's viewers too, though,
Yeah.
that there's always that question of, if it's my past life, then how do you prove it? How do you have to go with what resonates.
The neat thing about it is when you do a past life, you never forget it for life.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, if a person's making something up, in a couple of days they forget about it. But if they still remember in 2 weeks as if it's just like yesterday, then it's real. You know. And you know, you can
Same with a dream. If you have a dream and you think it's a past life, because I don't know about you, I forget dreams like pretty quickly. But I've had dreams that have stayed with me for years.
Yes, and when you have a dream that stays with you that way, it's usually a vision, you know, and dreams can be past lives. I was working with a guy, and he said, I have this recurring dream where I'm in this plane and I crash, and then I'm in a hospital. And I said, let's go into the dream. Why? I said, because I think it's a past life. So we went, and he was in a fighter plane. I look at it, and it was a Messerschmitt, German, and he's in this plane, and everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, the engine gives out, and he goes right down, hits the runway. Because the engine's shut off, there's no fire or anything. It just crashed. And all these people you can see running towards the plane to help him out. And I said, can you get out of the plane? He says, no. I said, why? He says, because I got a broken back. So he's in the hospital bed, and there's this beautiful blonde woman who's so dedicated to him, she's never going to leave his side. And she's a nurse. I said, who's that? And he goes, oh my God, it's my fiance now. And what happened was, all of a sudden, a bomb hit where they were, and they both vaporized. Oh. And he started crying. He says, well, I lost her that lifetime, but I've gained her now.
That's a nice story, sort of.
Well.
So. We have an online question.
Yes.
I think we do.
This is kind of the question. I'll read it word for word. I'd like the thing about people being born unable to perceive souls, like how some people can't perceive faces.
Okay, we're all born. I don't know what
I don't understand the question.
Is it about spirits around people?
So it's.
Can you read it word for word?
I just did. That's why.
Oh. Okay.
People being born that can't perceive a soul, or can't understand, or can't picture a soul. Same way that some people are born and they can't perceive faces. They can't recognize faces.
Yeah.
So the similarity or the
thing about past life is that we're supposed to be born ignorant, you know, of all our past lives. Because we discussed that this morning, that if you woke up tomorrow morning and you knew all your past lives, you'd be in such a state of anxiety and stress you wouldn't be able to move. You'd just be stuck there. All the sadness, but all the happiness at the same time. So you're born ignorant and then you meet up with people. The top 50% of your life is all these things you chose to learn this lifetime. You know, there could be 1,000 different things you want to learn. People are going to meet with you. They decide to meet with you before you're born to help you with this lesson. You're going to teach this lesson to them. And the bottom 50% of your life is free will. And you can choose, I don't want to do with it. Okay? And we have a soul group of up to 12 people that reincarnate into the same area over and over again to help each other through. So your soul group can be in this area, and then all of a sudden it's in Australia and in England or China and that type of thing. And one lady, it was amazing, she came to me to see about her fiance. And her fiance, she said, I want to see how I knew him in a past life. Well, her mother sat in on the session, and she found out that her mother was married to her fiance in a past life.
Wow.
And the mother...
Did they get along?
Well, the mother...
It's hard enough with mother-in-laws.
When she started dating this fiance, the mother says, marry him. He's good. He's great. He's the best for you. Well, how would she know? Because she was married to him too in a past life.
Wow.
So it's kind of neat, you know, and your child, you know, could have been your father. It just changed around.
I believe that. I've always thought that you change roles.
Yeah, and
that's why I was wondering, you know, when I said about my son saying I want to come back and I want me to be me and Daddy and you, and is there a way that you can actually say that you're going to be in the same roles? Do you
I think
power?
you decide that in between lives, you know, whether you want to integrate that way or what you want to learn, because each one is an individual soul.
Because I'm sure when he hits teens, it's not going to be I want to live with Mommy forever. I'm sure.
The youngest I work with is 7 years old. I work with many children. The children are so advanced now. I was working with we have people come from California and Australia and Afghanistan. They come to our home in Ampa, did sessions, and they fly into Ottawa. We pick them up, or they rent a car or whatever. And this one, what was I going to say?
Advanced child.
Well, the children are so advanced that they it's like they're working with a 30 or 40-year-old, right? So friends of mine, the kid was 3 years old, and the father was painting the bathroom. And the son said, I want to paint. And he said, son, you're too young to paint. And he said, no, I was a painter. And so the father said, okay, let's get Mom and come in here. And so they got Mom to come in, and they said, tell Mom and Dad, what do you mean you were a painter? He said, well, I was a painter. They put me on a table, They cut me with a scalpel, and I died. Where does
Wow.
a 3-year-old get the word scalpel?
Well, exactly.
So up to 8 years old, this lifetime, that seems to be the limit. Kids remember their past lives. And, oh, I remember mommy, like with you, your son said, oh, what about my other mommy, or something like that too, you know?
No, and that kind of worries me too, because my youngest said he was tied to a railway track and run over by a train.
Mm.
And he had major anxiety over this and nightmares every night.
Yeah.
And a lot of anger.
Hmm. Yeah. And some people are fairies before they're humans. You know, like Catherine came from a group of a planet that is so pure and so gentle and so loving. We actually brushed by that planet one time, and there was so much laughter and joy that we laughed for 3 days straight. And our stomachs were sore from laughing so much. It's such a sweet place. So when she came down to Earth, you know, they said, "Do you want to be a human?" And she said, "That's too violent." So she became a fairy first, and she was actually queen of the fairies. So we've actually
I
met
don't
quite a
get
few
that.
women and men that we've met that were a part of that group with her. And then she came became a human. And the fairy thing's really good, light and love and freedom and everything, and they take care of the animals and the plants, everything's fine, but you don't learn anything. You don't grow.
Is it kind of like a retreat for souls? Is that its purpose? Or?
To me, you start off with something first, and then when you become a human, you can't go back as a fairy. So for the first year...
Not even in another life? Like just never?
No, for the first life as a human being, after being a fairy, you can go back as a fairy.
Oh,
You
you
just
can.
lie down and say, I want to go back, and just pass away. But after that, you're stuck in the human contact.
Oh, darn.
And I've seen now. There's a thing about animals too. You can start off life as an animal, and then go through the chain of that, and then become a human if you want. And what happens is, I did a thing where a lady she was pregnant, and women will come to do past lives with me to find out how they knew this child in a past life, because they go back and see all the talents, all the personalities, and they're really prepared to guide this child on a special journey of doing certain things. You have an astrology friend, you know, who works with that.
Alison Price from Starsology in Oakville.
And she goes and
Look her up.
and tunes into the child and helps them on find out what their direction is. It's really great for the parents and them. So this lady wanted to find out if she knew this baby in a past life. So she went back into a past life, and she saw herself as a 50-foot whale. And this baby whale was beside her, and she says, "That's my baby there." And she says, "I was a whale before I was a human." Well, then the verification for her, I don't go there. The verification.
They know me already.
The verification for her there was that she had just been to Mexico, and she'd been in a retreat over the water, and the whales were swimming below. And in the middle of the night, she woke up, and the whales were saying, "You're one of us. You're one of us. You're one of us." So that was a verification for her. So then we moved it forward in that past life when she was a whale, and she was beached. You know, and the little baby's out in the ocean crying, saying, "Come on, Mom, come on, Mom." And this is back 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. And this lady on a horse comes and down to the beach and hugs the eye of the whale and says, "Don't die, I'm going to get help." So this lady went away and got horses and ropes and everything, and they're going to pull the nose of the whale out and then free it.
Is this going to have a happy ending?
Well, the whale died. And so what happens with
I
that?
guess if you're talking to someone about past life regression, there's going to be a lot of they died.
Well, yeah, I guess so, yeah.
And that's what causes trauma here.
Yeah.
And then we fix it.
Yeah, it causes trauma here, and then we fix it. So, then I said, well, that woman showed such incredible love to you that she's your sponsor. What do you mean? Well, the next life after that, you're going to be a human, and she's the sponsor. And I said, do you know who that is? Her sister was sitting beside her and said, "It's me." And every lifetime that sister meets up with her, either as a parent or a friend or a cousin or whatever, they meet up. Maybe just briefly, but she was her sponsor to become a human.
So you once you're human, you cannot go back to being an animal.
In my opinion, that's the way it goes. You know?
See, that's disappointing because I look at my cat and the easy life he has, and every day I go, I'm coming back as a cat.
Now, there's another thing too. We're living multidimensional life sideways. So the first multidimensional life sideways, we're all living in an animal on the planet. So you can be right on the back of a dolphin to feel what it's like to be a dolphin, but you're not that dolphin. That dolphin has its own soul and spirit. It's agreed to let you be 10 or 20% of it to feel what it's like to be a dolphin. Because that can happen, somebody else on the planet who wants to be close to you can interject their personality in your cat. And a woman will often say, "My male cat is my soulmate," or "My male dog is my soulmate," or a guy will say, "My female dog is my soulmate," that type of thing.
My cat loves me.
And
So there's someone
understand
else
about
out
that.
there, honey, that loves me.
so
10%.
So they interject part of their spirit into your animal, and they can comfort you. If they're a dog, they can protect you. If they're a horse, they can support you, whatever, or a parrot or whatever. And when that cat or dog dies, it's not the spirit of that animal that you're going to miss. It's that connection between you and somebody else on the planet that's broken that's going to devastate you. So that's a bit way out there, but that's the way it works.
No, I
It's
understand
kind of
that.
neat. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about, oh, we have a question.
Okay.
Got a quick question for you. Do you think people are always born as the same gender? And do you always think they're always born as the same sex? I guess it's the same question to two different people.
Very good question. Thank you. Men, when they go back to a past life, usually only see themselves as male, because we have a male ego, but we can't imagine ourselves being a woman. Okay, so that's it. But women, because they can birth both male and female, have no problem with that at all. And a man who's in touch with his feminine side will go and see himself as a female as well. So you can be born both, male and female. Now, what I've noticed on the planet at this time is that men who are spiritual are a little bit more in touch with their feminine side, and women who are spiritual are a little bit in touch with their masculine side. So that's how we can learn to blend together.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you can be both. And
I think you would need to be both
yes, you
to,
would. You know.
to learn everything we need to learn on this journey.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, otherwise, because men and women, let's face it, we're just so different.
Mhm.
We would need to have those experiences.
And sometimes there's a situation where a person's been a male most of their lives and refused to be a female, and then all of a sudden they be a female and they have a real butchy attitude and they have a hard time dealing with the female stuff at all. And the guy could be the same too, too macho, because he's been too much male or something. And there's very feminine guys too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I often see a male and female couple and you go, oh my God, that woman is definitely the male and he was the female in the past life. You know, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
She's
You can
taking
tell-
care of him and everything, and he's just doing whatever she says. And
That's called whipped.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, a bit. Like Queen.
So I was going to ask you if you could tell us a little bit more about fairies,
Okay.
dragons. I mean, we've never really covered this topic.
Yeah. Well, in a past life when you were a farmer, you didn't need a dragon because you're just, you know, a farmer. But at the same time, this lifetime, people are moving on as becoming spiritual warriors. So they need help from the other side. And so on October the 30th on the year 2000, the Avalon energies came on the planet, and people started getting their own dragons and merlins to help them on their journey. Okay.
Energies as in people being born at that time, or?
Well, they just the Avalon energies came on exactly at that time.
Okay.
So some people have had a dragon all their life, and some people got them in the year 2000, and some people have got them when they started moving ahead on their spiritual journey. And they'll just automatically have an incredible power from the other side. And so I got my dragon in the year 2000, and dragons are amazing. They'll change their names as you progress. A lady came to me in the year 2000, and she said, "I'm bringing my own dragon." And I went, "Okay." I'm dealing with another aspect I don't know about, and maybe this woman's a kook, I don't know. So she was from Sarnia. I was living in London, Ontario, and she's going to come at 1 o'clock, and I'm meditating at 12:30, and I open my eyes, and this big, I can see spirit around people and spirit. I saw this head this big of a dragon walk by me, and I went,
Well, she warned you.
well, yeah. I said, "There's a dragon in my living room." And then I don't never burn incense because people sometimes are allergic to it or whatever. So then all of a sudden I had incense burning, and the dragon went and sniffed the incense on a Buddha shrine I had, and I had a Shinto shrine above that, and it's got more power. So he goes like this, whoo! You know, he's shocked by the power, and went, "Hey, if you're a fire dragon, don't you go fry in my shrine?" And the dragon just came over very methodically, you know, and I went, "Yeah, my head and shoulders could fit in there pretty nice." All of a sudden I got extremely humble, and I said, "I'm here to serve your master, or your charge, and I'm going to be very respectful." He nodded, and he went over and sat in the corner. So she came in at 1 o'clock. "Is my dragon here?" I said, "Yeah." And well, what you can tell me about him? I said, "Well, he's pretty big and pretty fierce." But dragons actually are an extension of you. They're not a bad thing at all. So
And what's their purpose?
okay, yeah, they help you catapult you from the other side. When you're doing your sessions, let's say you have a dragon, and you feel a negative energy coming around you, you can ask the dragon to wrap its wings around you and the person you're dealing with. It totally protects you. Dragons can be as small as the palm of your hand, as big as this room, as big as this building. So if you were teaching a whole class in a stadium,
It could be big
it could
enough
wrap
to-
around and swings around the whole stadium. And also, if your kids, you know, a problem, as soon as if you got a dragon and you think about that child, the dragon automatically goes and protects them and watches over them, or on a school trip or something, and it sends back you psychic information about what's happening with the dragon, with the child. And there's air dragons, fire dragons, water dragons, and earth dragons. And water dragons are the ones that stay with you all the time, and your life is in an incredible flow. The other ones go and come back. But they're not anything fierce. They're not bad. It's an extension of you. And they take you into the universe, riding on their back into the future, into the universe, higher and lower worlds.
Astral traveling, so
Yeah, well, yeah. You wonder how you're able to be escorted there, and it could be either one of your guides or you know. And guides don't have to be human. They can actually be human form, and male or female. They could be angels and everything too, but they can actually be just energy. So you know, you meet a guide that's just energy, and it's like beautiful golden energy. And you step in that energy and you can feel, oh my God, that's what I feel when I'm spiritual. And that guide helps you with that. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, so dragons are a great thing. And 90% of the time when I work with a person, there's an inclination of a dragon. I have my own dragon. And when there's another dragon around, it gets red hot on the right hand side of my thigh. And so I'm doing a session with them and I feel this heat and I go, okay, there's a dragon around. And the dragon says, don't let them leave without seeing that they got a dragon. And they get their names and everything. Now, I have met thousands of people who are angels in human form. I've met thousands of people who are fairies in human form. I've met 9 people who are dragons in human form. They actually are a dragon in a human body, and they work totally on instinct. They have
Are they smokers?
There's a dragon? Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. It's quite good. They have hardly any conscience as far as an emotion. They don't try to hurt anybody, but they have no real. They know what they want to do, and they just do it. I met one lady who's got a husband and 2 children that are all dragons in human form.
Well, here's a theory, because just one sec.
Another question.
One sec though, because when my son was younger, remember I told you he always had these nightmares about a dragon,
Right.
and he was very traumatized. But the thing was, during that period in his life, he's autistic, but during that period in his life, he showed no remorse, had no conscience, all those things you just said.
Wow.
So is it possible that he's a dragon in human form and he was more in contact with that as a child?
Right, and when you are a dragon in human form, you don't have any guides like angels and everything helping you. You have one master dragon that helps you all the time. But that could be it. And I've actually been back 3 or 4 times to Dragon Heaven, and it's kind of, and you see the big eye of the god dragon in the back of Dragon Heaven. Question.
We have a question.
Okay, we have a question. Are dragons real?
The whole point is that with the society and the things now, that if a dragon actually showed itself in its form, it takes up a lot of space for one thing. So there'd be a lot of dragons around the planet, and they are very real, and they work with you all the time. You can feed them. They give you a sensation of that let you know they're around, and they often nudge you forward from time to time. So you get this sensation, like if I'm worried about moving forward on something, I'll feel this red hotness on my thigh, and the dragon's saying it's okay to move forward. I've planned everything out. It's organized. It's safe. Go for it. And so dragons are extremely real. Yes, and they don't show themselves on the human plane. I met a lady up in Iroquois Falls, a little Chinese lady, and she's actually a human portal for dragons. When we met her spirit guides, we went outside her, looked outside her light, and there was 5,000 dragons all there. She goes, "What the heck are they doing here?"
Wow.
And
Why were they all
said,
there?
I said, "Are you queen of the dragons?" And all the dragons bowed at the same time. So yeah, and there's actually a portal mountain in Banff. There's a big mountain right downtown Banff. That's a dragon portal as well.
Okay.
It's a different dimension.
Yeah, it's a different dimension.
Some people see them.
Some people see them and some don't, but they are real.
Once you have a dragon, you're very conscious of it. And I remember one time I was working for a delivery service, and
Menopause. All those hot flashes.
there you go. It's a fire
Don't
dragon.
women feel better?
It's a fire dragon.
That's what it is.
That's what it
Okay,
is.
sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
And if you have water problems, it's a water dragon.
Oh, water problems.
Okay,
Depends on
Do you have
whether
another question?
depends on whether or not you have a dragon.
depends.
Yes,
Another joke. Well done.
It's our cliche night.
It is. It's good. It's good.
Pun night.
Yeah. And so it's been a great consolation for me to have a dragon. They actually get me clients and everything too. You know,
Well, that's helpful.
I track back. Question
Another
again.
question.
Another question came through. Beliefs on the pineal gland as a spiritual stargate.
Right on. Massive. Yes, our pineal glands are right in the very center of our brain. It's about that big, and it is our most spiritual organ. It is, and it's being activated all over the place. Often, when you meditate and you hear the hissing in your ears, that means that the pineal gland is in full force and moving forward. And with the hissing, it can be a download. It can also be a situation where you're lying in bed and you hear this hissing, and they're saying you need to get out and do something because something spiritual is going to happen, or you need to meditate or something. And so the hissing helps with the pineal gland. That lets you know that you are in tune, and you can actually feel it right there. And you have the pranic tube on the front, but then when you have a direct connection from source to your pineal gland, it goes farther back on the head, right about there instead of there. Okay. And you can feel the energy coming right in, and it activates the pineal gland more. And it's always pure when it does that. You don't have to worry about that at all.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Any other truths?
You were telling me earlier about angel flashes.
Oh yes. There's many things that happen when you're doing, like I told you about the tears, left and right eyes. But for those people who are into angels and everything like that, the angels will show you when something's the truth. So there can be a situation where you're talking to somebody, and all of a sudden you see this little magnesium flare right beside them. It's just a little speck, and it flashes. It just goes really fast and bright, and then it disappears. And that means there's a truth there. And so a person will say, well, I wonder if I should do this, and all of a sudden they see a flash, and they say, yeah, whatever you said is true, you have to do that. So you can be talking to a person, looking up in the corner on the phone and in the corner of the room, and they'll say, I got 3 choices, I got to do this or this or this, and after the second one you see a flash. And that's letting them know that that's what they should do. It's
Well,
really
thank you. I
beautiful.
love that story.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, watch for
I
it,
know a
you know.
few people who've seen this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you were talking about too, about seeing many different lights moving back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the mid-90s, I was really upset with life, and I was upset with my job, my girlfriend, my parents, and my body, and my whole existence, and it was like I wanted to check out. I was really mad. And so I was screaming at the top of my lungs, saying, you aren't doing this right for me. I had my eyes closed. I opened my eyes, and all these lights are flashing back and forth in front of me. There was thousands of them. I use the analogy of like little sperm, but they were little gold lights, and they transition and move. And I went, what the heck's this? And I realized that these were all my hopes and aspirations, all my dreams that I hadn't done yet. And they're saying, okay, you got a little bit of a problem here, but look at what you're going to achieve, what you got lined up for you. And that just totally changed my life. So then that was mid-90s, and then about 2000, all of a sudden I looked and there was only 1,000 of them. Then 2003 there was only 500 of them. 2005 there was only 100 of them. And now there's about 7 or 8.
So you're close to dying.
Well, I as a part of every, well, sometimes as a session we'll go to the Akashic Records. And when you go to the Akashic Records, you can see your life book. You can see what's on your life book cover, and that's your soul symbol, represents you and nobody else. Take that soul symbol and you put it on your credit card, on your business card, on your website, on your letterhead, on your pamphlet. That represents you and nobody else. And I've completed my book. I'm finished my
Okay,
book.
Chris Ann, if you're watching, Chris Ann does Akashic Records. I think you're watching tonight. Chris Ann, you didn't tell me what my book was. I need those symbols. So we'll talk later. And we have a question.
The question here is, I guess, for the two of you.
Okay.
Do you have a religion, a specific belief system in which you class yourselves?
Ladies first.
Okay, I say I'm spiritual. I did grow up Anglican, and but I believe that we're souls that are on a human experience. We're here on a journey to learn about love, compassion, and experience life. I do believe in reincarnation, and I believe it's like school. We keep coming back to learn, and we come back until we get it right. And that's pretty much my belief system.
That's really good. I think one of the things that I should say is that, you know, who I am is not a past life and spiritual journey facilitator. That's what I do. Who I am is an unconditionally loving child of God, no more unique or special than anybody else. So what I do is spirituality. Religion is good in a way. There's a famous saying, religion is for people who are afraid of going to hell. Spirituality is for people who have already been there.
That's a good saying.
Yeah. And so, you know, religion is fine. You can stay in religion, and it can be a stepping stone to your own spirituality, right? But, you know, you can get bogged down in religion, you know, but if you keep moving on your spiritual journey, you'll never be bogged down. You can never be degraded or depressed spiritually, you know, physically, emotionally, yeah, mentally, but not that way. So it's important to say that you know, that's who we are. We're not any more unique or special as a human being than anybody else. We just have certain abilities that we've, you know,
And I believe we all have these abilities, and again, we've said this in other shows, if you can open yourself up more, that's really what this show is about, is that it's going to help educate you in ways so that you can find that inner voice and you can open up more to this, and hopefully more messages will come to you. And we're trying to help your soul grow here, and we're trying to bring everyone together in a spiritual community.
Very good. And one of the things too is that in between lives we work too. So the woman who saw herself as
Really?
the
You don't get to rest?
well, okay, reincarnation means you can actually spend 1,000 years between lives before you come back.
Okay.
You don't have to, but as soon as you come back, you're locked into the same karma that you had before. And you can be gone 1,000 years, but it only feels like 2 minutes from when you here. So one lady, that lady who saw herself as the whale, and the baby was her baby whale. When she said, "I want to see myself as a past life when I was spiritual," so we saw her as this Buddhist monk, and she's walking through all these other monks. She's bald-headed man, and she's wearing white robes though, and they're all wearing the orange, reddish robes. And she goes, "I'm walking through the crowd, but they don't see me. Why don't they see me?" But it's not my job to put anything in anybody's head. So I basically said, "Well, keep on going." And she walks up to this guy, and I said, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm helping him when he writes." And I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, he writes speeches and everything like that. And there's another guy that helps him when he gives a talk, but I help him when he writes." And he said, "But he doesn't see me either. How come he doesn't see me?" And I said, "Well, who is this guy?" She goes, "It's the Dalai Lama." So this is like 300 or 400 years ago,
Was she
right?
his spirit guide?
She was a spirit guide for the Dalai Lama. I said, "Well, the
Wow.
reason you can't see him is because you're a spirit guide." That's why this other guy helps him, another spirit helps him when he talks. So you can actually do that in between lives.
For those of you who have just joined us, you are with the Ask Your Angels talk show at www.askyourangels.ca. And tonight I'm here with Alan Green. We're talking about past lives and spiritual journeys.
Right on. And many different aspects of that.
I had a question for you. That, when we were talking about the lights on the ceiling, I have a friend, I've experienced this too, quite a while ago for me, but seeing, it's kind of like when you turn your TV on and all those little dots, little tiny black dots, and they all come together and they form an image.
Okay.
I see it, he's seen it, where there's all these little black dots on the ceiling, and then suddenly all of these three-dimensional figures come out. But I can't explain what they are. Like, they're nothing from this world. They don't make sense.
And, you know, the whole point of anything you do spiritual is how you feel with it. Okay? So you can say,
Uncomfortable.
it feels uncomfortable. Therefore, it could
Not
be...
scared, but just uncomfortable.
It can be lower elementals that are watching you. It can be different ones from different species and different races.
But it is something.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's something, and it's something I don't think you've made up or anything like that. It's just natural that way.
Well, especially when I've heard other people have seen the same thing, but I can't quite make out what it is.
Yeah. Well, you know, the whole point is feeling what you see. And for instance, you might have an apparition where Jesus shows up in front of you, and you say, "Wow, this feels great." I mean, it looks at Jesus; he's here. And now you say, "Well, I don't feel that real love that Jesus would give. I feel 50% that, but not the other." So because of humans being human on the planet, we don't realize we have the power to say, "Show me who you really are." And instantly that has to turn into who it really is. So I'll do a past life with somebody, and they'll see them that they have instead of a spirit guide, they'll have a wolf. And well, that's my totem animal. No, it's one of your guides. And in the native culture, the wolf means teacher. So then I'll say, okay, ask that wolf to show you who it really is. It turns into an old Merlin, an old wise man. He wanted to show that he was her teacher, and that's why it shows. So, and you can, this always happens. You always ask them, show me who you really are, if it doesn't feel good, and it will show you. It has to. It's free will.
So if I see this thing again,
Mhm.
I can say, show me who you really are. Okay.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
It'll work out. Yeah.
So going back to Oompa,
Mhm.
this is your retreat.
Mhm.
Can you tell our viewers, if they were to come to your retreat, what would they expect from the minute they get there? Like,
Wow.
kind of paint a picture. What happens? What services do you offer? And when you're actually doing the regression,
Mhm.
how does that work exactly?
Yeah, and so first you're going to give us a hug, okay? And Catherine is just phenomenal at that. Our home has healing qualities even without doing anything. It's got these healing qualities. And so we have people come to our home in Ampa and as a retreat, and we only charge $120 for a person to stay overnight and a bed and breakfast. Because we're not really trying to make money on it, but if a person is using our services, we want them to have a place to stay. We live in a log home in the woods. There's a cascading waterfall around the corner. There's a river right there, and we have cats and dogs and all sorts of. We have wild turkeys right now on our front lawn, about 14 of them, and one major, one male one. We call him King Strut, and so we supply this service so that people who want to use our services now. I do the past life and spiritual journeys. Normally the sessions are an hour and 3/4 on the road, but in Ampa it's 2.5 hours for the same price because I don't have any time restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing like 5 a day if I'm traveling, but there I can spend a whole morning or part of an afternoon to work at the session. And then I do a thing called Higher Self and Oversoul readings. And the Higher Self, we have our guides. So usually we have 3 guides, by the way. One works with your mind, one works with your spirit, one works with your body. And then above that, we have our higher self. And the higher self is actually an aspect of you. It's not anything separate from you, it's just a higher level of you. And it goes through all your lives with the great plan, the great picture of what you're planning on doing as far as your goals, your aspirations, and your dreams. And then above that we have your soul, and then above that we have your oversoul. And the oversoul is a direct connection with God. So if the higher self's male, the oversoul is female. If the higher self's female, the oversoul is male. And what I do is I tune into these ones and tell you all about them and what they're doing for you and how they work together. And sometimes they knew you in a past life too. And so we put it together, and it can be really astounding because it's qualities of you that you say, that's me, that's who I am. And that helps you understand how you function and how to work with it. So I do that, and then Catherine does Zenith Omega, which is color, light, frequency, and sacred geometry. There's over 400 clearings, any imbalance, disease, emotion, and she teaches 5 levels, and she facilitates a 6th level, which is called light body acceleration. It's good. Cheers.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Water break.
I'll tell you something interesting too. What's
Cheers.
happening right now?
Yes, it is.
So this is very important for anybody who's doing spiritual work and want to talk.
Drink lots of water.
Mm-mm. Yes, but no. Just give me a second. What happens every once in a while, and it doesn't happen that often, maybe every 3 months, there'll be some being that does not want me to talk about this. Now it could be a guide that you know, or when somebody's on alcohol or drugs, there's always a dark force around them that's trying to encourage them to keep on doing it. So I'm going to help that person and get rid of that alcohol situations. I mean, that one doesn't want it to happen. So it will send a tickle into my throat. Now it's not like as if they're choking me, but they just want me to stop talking. So if I drink water, nothing happens. But if I look at this water and say, this is holy water, and then drink it, it goes away.
Huh?
It's very important to know that, because you get choked up and you just can't talk. So it means you're doing the work, that they're out there and they don't want you to do the good work, and then you do the good work and it's done. So, and then with Catherine, she is a master at facilitating. You use color, light, frequency, and sacred geometry. So you go and she puts these color-like frequencies in the person. The first level has got 48 clearings, so you first learn the first level, and you can come to Ampa and stay and learn it. And she does travel on the road and do it too. And after that, it's like a language of it. There's each one is a diagram, and you have anxiety, anger, divine, outside the divine plan. They can put in things like being on the path, on the proper path. There's a thing called it. If they can't figure out what's wrong with you, they put it in there, and it helps with that. And so she's a really master at doing all these clearings, and she could do like 15 to 20 clearings in about an hour and a half.
That's incredible.
It is, and we've seen dramatic results. A guy came to our house who had problems with his toes. He said, "Look at," and he took his shoes off, and they were purple. He says, "I have to have these toes cut off. The doctor says in 3 days the toes are gone." And he said, and Catherine says, "Sit down." The guy trusted her. He said, so she put in things for circulation, diabetes, which he had, and all these other things, emotional things, and his toes were tingling like everything through the whole session. Next morning he comes by, he says, "My toes were tingling all night. I couldn't sleep. They were so hot." And when there's heat, there's healing. Okay? And he took off his shoes, he says, "Look," and they were pink. And that's 3 or 4 years ago. He hasn't had to have his toes removed. So we're finding it's the modality for now, and it's really working. She also does a 5-in-1 spa package. And
That sounds nice.
it is fun, but it's also helping with the healing and the spirituality too. She starts off on a chi machine, and it's a machine that goes back and forth like this, and it goes variable speed, and it basically gets the lymph working and limbers you up, and it's really great. We take that on the road with us, because when we do it, you can really feel.
It balances everything.
Well, 10 minutes on that thing is worth 30 minutes exercise. So we do it 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, and we feel really good. So you start off with that, and then she puts you on in an ionic foot bath. And that removes all the toxins from your body. You see all these heavy metals come out and everything else, and it's amazing that really. And 10% of what happens in there is going to happen over the next week. The rest, 90%, is going to happen over the next couple of weeks. So then you put her on a massage table with a biomat, which is 28 pounds of amethyst crystals. And you turn it on, it works far infrared, negative ions, and heat, and everything. And actually you can turn it up and crank it up, and it's a portable sauna.
Now, would that be uncomfortable to lay on?
Not at all.
Is it rough or?
No, it's all sewn into a beautiful mat.
Oh, okay.
So it feels hard, of course, but not, it's just really small.
That
Little.
sounds beautiful.
It's great. And then while you're on that, there's music in the background, and she does reflexology. Could you ask for anything better? And she works through that, and she gives insight. She's a life coach as well. But then at the end, if there's any clearings that you need for certain things as she's talking, she'll put in the Zenith Mega clearings too. So that's 5 different things. People love it. And then we have all sorts of portals and gateways on our land. Positive energy vortexes and elemental gateways and dimensional shift portals, and so people go and experience all of them at the same time. We have kayaking, and
I've heard time stands still there.
it seems to very easily, yes, and it's quiet. Like you go out there and it's dead silent.
And you feel like you're cut off from the rest of the world. So
Yeah.
people who lead a very busy life would probably love this place.
One of the things I found too, and when I moved there, I said, Catherine, I said, we're about 2 hours from Ottawa, 2 hours from Kingston, 3 hours from Toronto. Why would people drive all this distance? And then I remember seeing hundreds of past lives where a person were native, and the shaman always has their teepee just outside the village. So the people in the village go, I'm going to go on a journey, even though it's 300 meters, to this teepee, be healed, and come back to my regular life. Well, that's what people do in Kingston, let's say. They come to Ampa. They're taking that 2-hour journey, they're being healed, going back to their regular life. So that's why people love it.
Sometimes the journey part helps too, transition, right?
It's major. It's major. Without that journey, life is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the getting to the end that matters, it's the journey. Right? Yeah.
Music.
Yeah, and I was a professional musician for 25 years. So I play Native American flute, I play professional musical saw, I play piano. We have a portable grand piano in our home, and guitar. And then we do sing-alongs out in the campfires and things like that too, and drumming. I lead drumming circles. We've got just about every type of drum you can ask for. So it works out well.
Now, people who are musically inclined, are they welcome to bring instruments up with them?
Of course, yeah.
And
Yeah, and
Join in.
yep. And then sometimes a person will come up and they'll show us their modality or something, and we have a thing where we can promote them and everything like that too, you know, as they go.
So I'm going to go back to, you had said there was 1,000 people, or how many people you talked to were on the Titanic?
I've met 14 people who
14. I was way off,
who died
14.
on the Titanic.
I was paying attention.
Yeah.
14. Do you have any stories of that you can share? Because that's a topic that everybody is aware of.
Well, yeah. You kind of work on things like that where you try to help a person out of that, because this guy had an incredible feel of claustrophobia because of that. And he was on the Titanic, and he was right down at the front. You know how the iceberg hit the front of the Titanic?
Mhm.
Well, we don't. You learn so much about history. You don't think about things, but he was in a cabin by himself, right about where it hit, and it was all metal was all crushed, and everything buckled, and the big steel door of his cabin door seized shut.
Mhm.
So he had this claustrophobic thing. So I got him to imagine himself in a boat above where the ship sank, and he went down in a bathysphere and drilled through the thing and got himself out into the bathysphere up, and then I got him to see himself in that boat and then bring that himself, who was still alive, into the boat and amalgamate the two of them together and brought them back to now. And all of a sudden the claustrophobia disappeared.
That's incredible.
And you know, when you do past lives too, they show you your childhood sometimes, and sometimes there's childhood abuse.
Mhm.
At that time, you get the person, as a beautiful woman as you, see yourself as a child who's being abused, and you go into the situation and push the person off you, talk with that child, hug it, clear it up, and then pull it inside you, because the safest place in the world is inside you. Part of you was lost back there, and that happens in past lives too. Part of you was lost back there, and you retrieve it.
I have a friend, I won't go into details, but she had a traumatic experience when she was young, and she's been dealing with it her whole life.
Mhm.
She's, you know, done journals and reached inside herself, and she's tried everything,
Mhm.
and she's coming along. I'm really proud of her, but
Mhm.
she even got to the point, it's kind of like in Sybil, where she meets her younger self,
Mhm.
and she comforts
Mhm.
her,
Mhm.
you know. She doesn't have the split personalities, but it's the same thing. Spiritually, she comforted this small child,
And you know, it's not past life is not a metaphor or something to throw out other aspects of life. You know, I mean, doctors are good. You know, doctors can really help you with certain things. You know, you don't want a psychiatrist and everything else. I call myself a spiritual psychotherapist because I do that. But there was a guy I worked with from Germany. We had a phone session, and he came back from Iraq, fighting there, and he was insane. He just had this rage in him, and he actually divorced his wife and separated himself from his child because he felt he would be dangerous to them. And it's changed his whole life and devastated his whole life. Well, then it sort of eased off. He's been to hundreds of psychologists, hundreds of doctors. Nobody's able to help him. And finally, he did a session with me, and you can do things and find out things in past lives that no doctor can ever find out now.
exactly.
So we went back to the time he came back from Iraq, and I went, "What do you feel?" And he said, "I don't feel like me." I said, "Is there a presence inside you?" He went, "Yes." So he had picked up an entity in Iraq that wanted to destroy him, and it was right inside his body. And so since then he had pushed it behind him, but it was still there, and his whole body is seized up. Like, he's terrified. He can't live a normal life. He can't sleep at night because he's worried about this thing coming back in him. And so we freed it to the light. We actually asked the light to take it away from him, and everything just disappeared, and now he's
Did he
free.
go back with his wife?
Well, it was just 3 days ago, so I don't know.
Oh, well, let's hope he does.
Yeah.
We were talking today about walk-ins, and
Yes.
we've touched on this in a past show. But if you weren't listening to that one, then this might interest you.
Because I was a walk-in, and it's an amazing situation. At 9 years old, this lifetime I drowned. So I couldn't swim, and I was on a dock, and these guys thought it'd be funny just to pick me off the dock and throw me into 24 feet and 12 feet of water. So I went down for the third time, you know. And all of a sudden I reached up and I was holding the dock, and I went, and I could swim. And I went, I've never been able to swim. How'd that happen? I always thought an angel saved me or something like that. Somebody pushed me to the dock. But then Doreen Virtue, in 2000, I went down to Denver, Colorado, and I had a meeting with Doreen Virtue, and I said, you got to write a book about earth angels. I said, I'm seeing them all over the place, and walk-ins and everything. She said, I am. And she did come up with a little teeny $10 book, which I bought hundreds of copies and gave them to all my friends, because it talked about walk-ins and elementals and star children. And so in my case, at 9 years old, normally in a walk-in situation, your spirit leaves and a more highly evolved one comes in. In my case, I moved over to the left-hand side of my body, and a warrior came in the right-hand side of my body. And to cope, because my dad was beating me up and whipping me. And that, as this beautiful, innocent child, I was being destroyed. My spirit, even my soul, was being destroyed. So this warrior came in to help me. You know, and as soon as that warrior came in, my dad left. It was amazing. And also, I could swim. and I had this dichotomy happening all my life where there was two aspects of me. One side wanted an SUV, the warrior, and the other wanted a sports car. Women who knew me as this musician, poet, writer, would meet this brick wall called the warrior, and the women who knew me as the warrior, macho man, who's this pansy musician? So I had things happen, and then at 57 years old, this lifetime, because that happened at 9, all of a sudden I was in a safe place with Catherine, in a beautiful home, and the warrior didn't have to be there any longer.
So he left.
He left. I came back to myself. So you will notice that, people, that, you know, one side of you is always strong, the other side of you is always weak. You know, that type of thing.
We have a question.
It's not really a question,
Okay.
but
It's an
somebody
answer.
online
Maybe it's an answer.
has asked, could you tell the story about your special coin that you wear around your neck?
Oh my gosh!
Yes, that's we did want to talk about that. So thank you very much.
Thank whoever
for
that is. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah.
Must be an
Because
angel.
it's a great
Must
story.
Must be an angel. Okay.
Oh.
Angel, yeah. So what happens is, thank you, Angel. This is a 1949 silver dollar, and it's the silver dollar of my birth. And what happened is, I was in a spook group.
I love that.
That's a good name.
Spook group.
Spook group. This is 1982, and they were deep trance channelers. And deep trance channelers mean that your spirit, you leave your body, and a spirit comes in and speaks through you. And then when they're done, they leave and you come back. I couldn't do that. I was just a medium. But so I'm there amongst these people for 2 years. It was a great experience. And all of a sudden, I see myself as this big. I'm 1 year old, and I'm in the foyer of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Stratford, Ontario. And I'm in my baby carriage. My great aunt comes in and hands me something. I grab onto it, and everybody laughs. And I came out of it. I went, what was that all about? I was actually back there as a baby. So the next week I talked to my mom and I said, what's the story about what happened? She said, well, there was a custom back in the olden days that at 1 year old, they would give you a silver dollar of the year you were born, and they would hand it to you, and if you grabbed onto it, you were going to be rich. If you let go of it, you're going to be poor. He said, and you grabbed onto it, and we all laughed. And I was actually right there. I experienced that. I never knew, right? So that was neat. She said, and that's the coin I've saved for you. That's the coin you have now. So about 35 years ago, I went and got them to put this thing around it to hold it, but I've never worn it. Then in 2011, I went to Burlington to work with people. One lady who was a very good psychic, I put it in her hand and said, don't look at this. What do you think it is? She goes, this is very important to you. This is your compass. And I went, whoa, who needs crystals around their neck? You know, I'll just wear this as a compass, and it means something about being prosperous. But then Catherine is near or farsighted or something. She can see really close up without her glasses on. And below it, it says Floreat Terra Nova, which means to nourish the new earth. And I went, wow, that's what we're all doing, and that's what we're trying to do, especially in our work. And I went, okay, there's 3 good reasons to wear this all the time. And then in September 2011, I saw the movie The King's Speech. And The King's Speech is all about finding your voice and speaking your voice and your truth and getting it out there. And on the back is King George VI. So
it's
there's 4 good
extremely
reasons. Yeah. Important, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was Angel, I think. Thank
Yeah,
you
Angel.
for chatting that one in.
Vivian wrote in to say it changed her life and how you could go to psychoanalysts.
Well, did she write in?
She did write in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's people that will give me high praise for what they've done, and they'll say that I've totally changed their life. Well, coming to me can allow you to be in the presence of your guides more fully, okay? And it's in a safe place, so things can happen that are magical, and miracles could happen. I don't take any credit for that. I do take credit for working hard and being of total service, but the person is the one who changed themselves, you know. And I'll take credit for working hard, but when there's a transformation happen, it's usually, something they've agreed to. They're ready. Yeah.
And you wear something else around your neck. Did you want to share that with everybody?
Well, Catherine and I found out about shungite, and shungite is an amazing. It's from Russia, and it's a meteor. This thing's only $10, right? And you can buy them from a guy named Mars in Toronto or something, and also Jason Quitt. He sells them too. And this is these shungite is got all these incredible qualities that no other. It's not really a stone. It's like a meteor, and it balances you out totally. We have shungite rods, and we hold them. And what it basically does is, I sit there in the morning and say, okay, where's the problem in my body? And there'll be a pain in my knee, and I'll just go in and push it out, or pain here, pain there. And so that's what this is really good.
If I hold two up, will it knock that guy out of bed?
You never know. Yeah.
Pain.
And when a person...
It's late. I tell terrible jokes at night.
It gets better, right? Yeah. Okay. So when you're meditating and a person wants to communicate with you who's passed over, they'll give you some type of sensation of something that they did when they were on Earth, or how they died. So, you spend cigar smoke, and you go, the only person I know was Uncle Jake who smoked cigar. Or your left foot will go numb, and you go, who do I know who's passed over who had a problem with the left foot? It's not bad. And you go, oh, Aunt Alice had a club foot. Thank you, Aunt Alice, for being here. And then it goes away. So
My father-in-law was a chain smoker.
Okay.
So he came back a couple times. I saw him the first time, and that didn't go over well. So the next two times, cigarette smoke.
Yeah. And so a year after my mother died, I'm meditating and I felt this lump there. It wasn't painful, but it was uncomfortable. Like somebody put a brick in my body, and I'm trying with Reiki to push it out, and it wouldn't leave. And all of a sudden, I said, now who do I know who had a problem with that? I went, my mother. She died of liver cancer, and she was showing me how her liver had swollen up and how uncomfortable it was. I said, okay, Audrey. I spent 25 minutes getting rid of it and never left. Thank you, Audrey, for showing me that you're here. And within 8 seconds, it was gone. So, and when you see a spirit around somebody, you don't really see that spirit, you feel it. Okay? So if I look at my watch, it focuses on my retina, my brain says that's a watch. When I see a spirit around you, I feel it, and the feeling of it comes in through the top of my head, focuses on the back of my retina, the brain puts it together and says that's what that spirit looks like. Its personality, its character, what it's wearing. So you can see a person giving a talk, and there's a big white wall behind them, and you see the aura. Auras are like white around you or something like that, just the heat coming off your body. Then all of a sudden, you see a white head and shoulders beside them, and that's the spirit. Now, if you look at it like this with your mind, it goes away in 2 seconds. So if you sit back and absorb it, say, "Oh, that's a little lady with a sea brooch and a veiled thing," and you can communicate with them and everything else, that way. So I was at a Unitarian Fellowship meeting, and the lady was a female minister, and this energy started moving around her all over the place. I knew it was a spirit, because you're kind of in that focused state. And then it stopped, and it was a little Jewish guy, and he had the little cap, and he had the big beard and the big horn-rimmed glasses and Jewish things down like this, and he was just beaming, having a great time listening to her. So after the session, we had lunch, and the sermon was over, I came up to her and I said, there was a spirit around you when you were giving your talk. And she says, oh, was it an angel? And I went, no, it's a little Jewish guy. And I started describing him, right? Well, the tears went flying down her face. I said, what is it? She goes, it's my Jewish friend that died 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
And I said, really? And she says, it's so good to know he's here. She says, the greatest sadness I had with him was he never ever got a chance to hear a sermon that I gave. I said, well, he has now.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So it's our job to do that, to give it out if we get it, that we're supposed to tell people about these things.
And not edit it.
Yes, especially not edit it. Yeah, then it wouldn't be pure.
No, exactly. I wanted to say thanks again for joining us tonight, Alan.
My honor.
And we're super. Alan's here. If you want to check out his website, www.alangreen. That's ALLAN, and it's .ca. His wife Catherine will be on next week, and we're super excited about that. And so please join us next week at 8:30 on the Ask Your Angels talk show. Follow us on Twitter. Check out our Facebook group page. If you're interested in stones and crystals, we have Veronica from Phoenix Crystal Healing coming on the show the week after Catherine. So thanks so much for being here tonight, everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Just have a question that came through.
Question.
Okay.
I'll be at Soul Paths in Dundas tomorrow.
Yes.
And also Odyssey Books and Resource Center on Saturday and Sunday in Ajax.
So look that up on the internet. Soulpaths.ca.
Yep.
And Odyssey.
Can Alan reflect on the energy physical shift I've been experiencing in the last year? Does that make any sense?
That's my show.
Oh.
And what energetic shift has been happening? That's the thing, you know.
This is actually Catherine's specialty. If you're watching next week, if you could chat that in again, if you can hold on just for a week, we could help you
And
out
just
with that.
maybe rewrite it as far as what you mean exactly by that.
Give us
you
a
know.
little more details, specifics.
But and Catherine's going to be talking about the changes on the planet and what's happening, like and we've been massively going through shifts. Sometimes solar flares affect us so much it knocks us right out.
A lot the last week.
A lot last week especially.
Does that
so-
have anything to do with the new moon at all?
Full moon.
Well,
Full
they,
moon.
yeah, but they happen at any time, the solar flares. And we're all made up of the same stuff as Mother Earth, so we're really dramatically affected by it.
Okay.
Good. Another question.
Great.
The response, okay, thanks, I will reword it for next show.
Great.
Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you.
And thanks again for joining us tonight on the Ask Your Angels talk show.
Hope it's been inspiring. Thank you.
Good night.